The conference room smelled like stale coffee and desperation, the kind that clings to your skin after 12-hour days chasing impossible quotas. I pitched my soul into that final slide, voice cracking like dry earth under a summer sun, when the world tilted sharp, unforgiving, and I hit the carpet face first, spreadsheets scattering like confetti from a funeral. Daniel! Jesus! Someone call 911. Alexander's shout cut through the ringing in my ears, his arms wrapping around me before the darkness swallowed everything. His cologne, something clean and citrusy, the last thing I clung to like a lifeline. They said it was a panic attack, the kind that sneaks up on you after years of grinding in the glass towers of Midtown Manhattan, where dreams go to die under fluorescent lights. I woke up in a hospital bed on the Upper East Side, tubes snaking into my arm, the beeps of monitors syncing with the erratic thump of my heart. Alexander was there, slouched in a vinyl chair that looked too small for his broad frame, his tie loosened like he'd been in a fight with it and lost. "You scared the hell out of me, Dan," he said, his voice rough around the edges, green eyes shadowed with something I couldn't name. Worry, maybe, or the ghost of his own buried battles. He hadn't left. Not through the ambulance ride or the endless questions from the ER docs. In a city that chews people up and spits them out, he'd stayed. I tried to laugh it off, but it came out as a wheeze. Guess I finally broke the record for worst team meeting ever. He didn't smile, just leaned forward, elbows on his knees, like he was holding the weight of my unraveling for me. Alexander Hale, 32, sharp as a tack in client negotiations, with that easy Midwestern charm that made even the brass in boardrooms crack a grin. We'd been at Sterling and Voss for 4 years, orbiting each other in the marketing department, me, the workaholic account exec from Ohio who'd traded cornfields for concrete. Him, the transplant from Chicago with a laugh that could disarm a room. But we'd never really talked. Not beyond water-cooler banter about Knicks games or the latest craft IPA flop. Now, here he was, guardian angel in khakis, handing me a styrofoam cup of what passed for tea. The doctor, a no-nonsense woman with a Brooklyn accent thick as fog, prescribed rest, therapy, and a mandatory 2-week leave. "Your body's screaming for a break, Mr. Whitaker. Listen to it." I nodded, staring at the 4-drip like it held all the answers to why I'd let the job eclipse everything else. The empty apartment in Chelsea, the family calls I dodged, the dates that fizzled before appetizers. Alexander drove me home in his beat-up Subaru, the one with the Cubs sticker peeling on the bumper, weaving through traffic like he owned the streets. "You don't have to," I started, but he cut me off with a glance. "Shut up, Dan. We're friends, right? That's what friends do. Friends." The word hung between us like smoke from a just-extinguished fire. My place was a shoebox on West 23rd, all exposed brick and IKEA regrets, the kind of spot that screamed single guy pretending to adult. He helped me inside, fussing over the thermostat like a mother hen, then rummaged through my fridge, empty except for takeout containers and a half-flat seltzer. "Jesus, man, you live like a monk on a hunger strike." By evening, he'd ordered Thai from the spot on 8th Avenue, the one with the killer pad CEW, and we ate cross-legged on the floor, the TV murmuring some mindless cop show in the background. That's when the cracks started showing. Not in the walls, but in me. Midway through a bite, the fork slipped, and I was crying, ugly, shoulder-shaking sobs that tasted like salt and shame. Alexander didn't flinch. He just set his plate down and pulled me into a hug, his hand steady on my back. It's okay, he murmured, breath warm against my temple. You've been carrying this alone too long. I don't know how long we sat like that, but in the quiet, with the city humming outside the window, something shifted. His touch wasn't pity. It was presence, solid and unyielding, the first real human connection I'd felt in years. The next morning, sunlight slanted through the blinds like accusatory fingers, highlighting the dust motes dancing in the air. Alexander was already up, brewing coffee from the sad little pod machine I'd forgotten I owned. Black? 2 sugars? He asked, and I mumbled yes, surprised he remembered from that one office potluck last Christmas. He slid the mug over, then perched on the arm of the couch, watching me with that quiet intensity that made my skin prickle. Talk to me, Dan. What's eating you alive? I hesitated, staring into the steam rising like ghosts. How do you unpack a lifetime in one breath? The move to New York at 25, chasing the ad man's dream, only to find it was a hamster wheel of pitches and performance reviews. The ex, Jamie, who'd bailed 2 years ago when the late nights turned me into a stranger. The closet I'd half-stepped out of in college, only to slam it shut again under the weight of corporate bro culture. It's everything, I finally said, voice barely above a whisper. The job, the city, it's like I'm drowning, and no one's throwing a rope. Alexander nodded, slow and deliberate, like he'd been waiting for this. I get it. More than you know. He paused, rubbing the back of his neck, a tell I'd seen in meetings when he was stealing for a tough sell. Back in Chicago, I burned out too. Quit a gig at a startup after pulling 70-hour weeks. Thought I was invincible, till I wasn't. His eyes met mine, raw and unguarded. Came here to start over. But it's lonely as hell, isn't it? Pretending you're fine when you're fracturing inside. We spent the day like that, talking, really talking, about the pressure to perform, the invisible scars of ambition. He shared stories of his mom, a nurse who'd worked doubles to put him through Northwestern, and how her quiet strength was the only thing that kept him from packing up and heading home. I told him about my dad, the stoic farmer who'd never understood why his son fled the heartland for that Sodom and Gomorrah. Laughter crept in between the heavy parts, like sunlight-piercing clouds, his impression of our boss, Mr. Hargrove, with his comb-over and conspiracy rants about millennials, had me doubled over, ribs aching in the best way. By nightfall, the apartment felt less like a cage and more like a haven. Alexander crashed on the couch, waving off my protests. Doctor's orders. No solo missions for you yet. As I lay in bed, listening to the distant wail of sirens and the soft rhythm of his breathing from the living room, a warmth bloomed in my chest. Tentative, unfamiliar. Gratitude, or something deeper, stirring like a long-dormant seed? The first week blurred into a rhythm. Mornings with coffee and crosswords from the Times. Afternoons wandering the High Line, where the wild grasses whispered secrets to the Hudson breeze. Alexander pointed out the little things I'd forgotten, the way the light fractured on the water at dusk, or the street vendor's falafel that tasted like home. He dragged me to an indie bookstore in the village, where we lost hours in the stacks, him quoting Whitman while I pretended to browse self-help. Song of Myself, he read, voice low and fervent. I celebrate myself and sing myself. Do I contradict myself? Very well then, I contradict myself. His gaze lingered on me, and for a heartbeat, the air thickened, charged with unspoken what-ifs. but doubt crept in like fog off the river. Who was he? Really? This guy who'd upended his life to play nursemaid? Late one night, as rain lashed the windows, I found him on the fire escape, phone pressed to his ear, voice strained. Yeah, Mom, he's hanging in there. No, I can't just leave. He hung up quick when he saw me, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Family stuff, he said, but the evasion stung. Was I a burden, a detour on his path to somewhere else? Still, the pull grew stronger. One evening, after a particularly grueling therapy session where I'd finally named the fear of being seen, truly seen, Alexander waited outside the clinic, thermos of hot cider in hand. "How'd it go?" he asked, and I spilled it all, the words tumbling like autumn leaves. He listened, then cupped my face gently, thumb brushing a tear track. "You're brave as hell, Dan. Braver than you know." Our foreheads touched, breaths mingling, and in that suspended moment, the world narrowed to the heat of his skin, the faint stubble grazing mine. No kiss. Not yet. Just the promise. Electric and terrifying. Back at the apartment, the tension simmered. We cooked pasta, burnt the garlic, laughed it off with cheap Chianti, and as dishes clattered in the sink, his hand found my waist, steadying me against the counter. "Stay," I whispered, not sure if I meant the night or forever. He did, slipping into my bed like it was the most natural thing, our bodies fitting in the dark, spooned close, hearts sinking in the quiet. Sleep came easy for the first time in months, wrapped in his arms, the city fading to a distant hum. Week 2 dawned with a fragility, like glass after a storm. Sterling and Voss called Hargrove, gruff but not unkind, offering extensions on my leave. "Take what you need, Whitaker. We need you whole," Alexander overheard, his jaw tightening. "They're vampires," he muttered, but there was pride in his eyes when I thanked him for making it possible. We ventured to Central Park, leaves turning crimson underfoot, and talked dreams deferred. My half-baked novel gathering dust, his sketches of urban landscapes tucked in a drawer. "You should show them," I urged, and he shrugged, but the spark ignited. Yet shadows loomed. A text from an unknown number lit his screen during dinner. "Miss you. When are you coming back?" He silenced it quick, but not before I saw the name, Ethan. Ex-friend, the jealousy twisted sharp, irrational after so short a time. "Old college buddy," he said lightly, but his fork scraped the plate too hard. That night, as we lay tangled, questions burned unspoken. Who was I to him, a project, a pity fuck waiting to happen? No, not that. Our touches were reverent, exploratory hands mapping scars and sighs, but always stopping short, building like a slow jazz riff. The leaves' end approached like a verdict. I dreaded returning to the grind, but more, I dreaded the fracture, him back to his orbit, me to mine. On our last free day, we climbed to the roof of my building, the skyline sprawling like a jagged promise. Wind whipped his hair, and he turned to me, eyes fierce. "Dan, this, it's real, right? Not just the collapse." My heart hammered. Real as the ground beneath us. Then, finally, his lips on mine soft, searching, tasting of salt and city air. The kiss deepened, hands in hair, bodies pressing close against the parapet, the world blurring to just us. but as stars pricked the dusk. My phone buzzed. Jamie, my ex, out of the blue. Heard you crashed. Coffee? For old times. The past rearing. Unbidden. Alexander saw, his face clouding. You gonna go? I shook my head, but the seed of doubt took root. What if this was fleeting? A stress-fueled fever dream? Little did I know. The real storm was brewing. Not from old flames, but from secrets Alexander guarded like buried treasure. Returning to Sterling and Voss felt like stepping into a lion's den dressed as lunch. The elevator dinged on the 42nd floor, and there it was, the hum of keyboards, the murmur of deals being sealed over lukewarm lattes, the invisible pressure cooker ready to boil over again. Hargrove clapped me on the back in the hallway. Glad you're back, champ. Light load this week. But his grip lingered a beat too long, a reminder of the fragility I'd exposed. My desk waited like an old enemy, inbox bloated with 247 unread emails, each one a siren call to dive back into the abyss. Alexander's cubicle was across the aisle, a beacon in the beige wilderness. He looked up as I settled in, flashing that crooked smile that now carried the weight of our rooftop kiss. Survived the commute? He mouthed, and I nodded, fighting the flush creeping up my neck. We'd agreed to keep it low-key. No PDAs in the pressure cooker of corporate life, but every glance felt like foreplay, charged and secret. Lunch was our first test. The break room, fluorescent-lit purgatory, where Karen from HR dissected the latest office romance rumor over turkey wraps. We sat at the corner table, knees brushing under formica, talking shop while our feet tangled in silent Morse code. Client brief on the Reynolds account. Nailed it, he said aloud, passing me a folder, our fingers lingering just enough to spark. Under the table, his sneaker nudged mine. Promise for later. The afternoon dragged, metrics staring me down like judgmental gods, but Alexander's post-it notes appeared like manna. Breathe. You've got this. One even quoted E. Cummings, I carry your heart with me, tucked into my planner, making my pulse stutter. By 5, as the team filed out to happy hours, I still dodged. He lingered by the copier. My place tonight? I make a mean risotto. His apartment in Hell's Kitchen was a revelation, loft style, with exposed beams and walls lined in vinyl records, a far cry from my sterile Chelsea cave. Jazz drifted from a turntable, Coltrane, moody and intimate, as he stirred arborio in a cast-iron skillet, sleeves rolled to elbows, forearms dusted with flour. Secrets in the saffron, he said, winking, but his eyes held heat, the kind that simmered slow. We ate by candlelight on a thrift store table, wine loosening tongues, stories of first jobs, worst dates, the ache of holidays alone in a city that never sleeps. After, on his worn leather couch, the kiss reignited, hungrier now, hands roaming with purpose. His shirt came off first, revealing the lean muscle of a runner, a faint scar snaking across his ribs from a childhood bike wreck. Chicago streets, he murmured against my neck, fingers tracing my collarbone. We moved to his bed, a tangle of limbs and whispers, exploring with a tenderness that bordered on worship. No rush, just the sacred mapping of each other's landscapes. His touch coaxed confessions from me, the loneliness that had hollowed me out, the fear that love was a luxury I couldn't afford. You're not alone anymore, he breathed, and in his arms, I believed it. Mornings blurred into a new normal. Coffee runs together, stolen moments in the stairwell where lips met quick and fierce. At work, we were pros, banter sharp, collaboration seamless, but off the clock, it was a whirlwind. Weekends became ours. Brunches in Brooklyn brownstones, where hipsters nursed oat milk lattes and we held hands under the table. Hikes upstate, where autumn leaves crunched underfoot and he sketched me against a barn, pencil strokes capturing the light in my eyes. My muse, he'd tease, but the way he looked at me, devoted, disarming, made my chest ache with something perilously close to hope. Yet, fissures appeared, subtle as hairline cracks in porcelain. Ethan texted again, innocuous at first, game this weekend? But Alexander's replies grew clipped, phone face down more often. I pushed it aside, chalking it up to ex-drama, but Jamie's olive branch turned into coffees that stretched too long. You seem lighter, he'd say over scones at Lupin Quotidian, his blue eyes probing. Jamie was the ghost I'd buried. Charming graphic designer, the one who'd called it quits when my ambition outpaced our bed. Now, clean-shaven and contrite, he dangled apologies like bait. I was an idiot, Dan. We were good. I shut it down, ancient history. But the encounters left me raw, questioning if I'd traded one cage for another. Alexander noticed, of course. One night, after a gala at the Met where we'd posed as work buddies in tuxes, he cornered me in the coat check. What's with the distance? Talk to me. Rain slicked the streets outside, mirroring the storm in my gut. I confessed the coffees, the pull of familiarity. His face hardened, jaw clenching. You think I'm not enough? After everything, hurt laced his words, and mine tumbled out defensive. It's not that. It's me. Scared shitless this'll vanish like everything else. We argued in whispers, the city's pulse mocking our fragility, until he pulled me close, kiss bruising with need. I'm not going anywhere, he vowed, but doubt lingered like smoke. The betrayal brewed in shadows I couldn't see. Mid-November, a team retreat loomed, 3 days at a lodge in the Catskills. Team-building euphemism for forced fun and passive-aggressive trust falls. Alexander and I carpooled up, the drive a bubble of stolen kisses at red lights, hands linked over the gearshift. But at check-in, Ethan's name appeared on the roster, consultant from a partner firm, broad-shouldered and beaming, clapping Alexander on the back like old times. Hail, been too long. Man, the hug lingered, and Alexander's laugh, genuine, unguarded, twisted something in me. Ethan was everywhere, bonfire storytelling, where his tales of their college escapades painted Alexander in a light I'd never glimpsed, wild, reckless, the guy who'd backpacked Europe on a whim. Alex was the heart of the crew, he said, arm slung casual over Alexander's shoulder. I forced smiles, nursing spiked cider, but jealousy gnawed like acid. That night, in our shared cabin bunk, damn budget cuts. Alexander sensed the chill. Babe, it's nothing. Ethan's just history. But his phone buzzed under the pillow. Ethan, miss our late nights. Drinks after. And when Alexander silenced it, the lie hung heavy. Back in the city, the rift widened. Work ramped up, holiday campaigns loomed, deadlines like guillotines, and our stolen moments frayed. I catch him staring out windows, lost in thought, or snapping at small things. A misplaced key, a late train. What's eating you? I'd ask, but he'd deflect with a kiss, pulling me under until questions drowned in desire. Yet intimacy shifted, fewer words, More urgency, like he was anchoring against a tide I couldn't see. Thanksgiving approached, a minefield for the untethered. Alexander invited me to his mom's in Queens, a brownstone festooned with pilgrims and pies. She wants to meet the guy who's got me smiling like an idiot. Nerves fluttered. Would she sense the undercurrents? The gay son she'd raised with quiet acceptance? The dinner was warmth incarnate. Turkey carved with love. Stories of Alexander as a gap-toothed kid causing chaos. His mom, silver-streaked and sharp-eyed, pulled me aside post-meal. He talks about you non-stop, Daniel. Like you're the missing piece. Her hug smelled of rosemary and home, cracking open aches I'd armored over. But on the drive back, Manhattan's lights blurring past, Alexander's phone lit up. Ethan again. Voicemail this time. I pretended not to hear the murmur. Can't do this, man. It's complicated. My heart sank, pieces slotting into place. Complicated. Me. Late that night, as we undressed in the dim, I confronted him softly. Tell me about Ethan. Really? He froze, shirt half-buttoned, green eyes stormy. It's not what you think, but the pause stretched, and when he finally spoke, we were together. Ended bad. The words landed like blows. Together. Not buddies. Lovers. The omission burned. Betrayal's first bitter taste. Why hide it? I whispered, backing away. He reached, desperate. Didn't want to scare you off. Thought we could build something new. Lies or half-truths. Did it matter? The trust we'd woven unraveled, thread by fragile thread. I left his bed that night, curling on the couch, the city's roar a dirge for what we'd almost had. December descended on New York like a velvet shroud, fairy lights twinkling in shop windows while slush turned sidewalks to treacherous ice. Sterling and Voss pulsed with pre-holiday frenzy, jingle-jangle emails, client gifts wrapped in branded tissue. But the office felt alien now, every corner echoing with unspoken accusations. Alexander and I navigated it like minefield dancers. Nods in hallways, emails clipped and professional, our cubicles twin islands in a sea of oblivious chatter. Great work on the pitch, he'd type, and I'd reply thanks, fingers hovering over delete, heart a bruised fist. Ethan lingered like a specter, his firm's tie-in extending his stay. Lunch meetings became torture, him at the conference table, anecdotes flying, Alexander's laughs forced but frequent. I'd excuse myself for calls, hiding in the stairwell, breaths ragged, replaying the voicemail in my head. Complicated. As if I were the footnote, the interlude. Nights alone in Chelsea amplified it, the apartment's silence mocking, takeout containers piling like regrets. Therapy helped. Dr. Lena's office a sanctuary of plants and empathy. Betrayal isn't just the secret, she said, her voice steady as chamomile. It's the fear it confirms, that you're not enough. I nodded, tears hot, vowing to reclaim my edges. Yet Alexander haunted me, pull like gravity. A late-night text, can we talk? Please, cracked the dam. I met him at a dive bar in the East Village, neon buzzing open like a dare. He nursed a whiskey neat, eyes red-rimmed, the man who'd anchored me now adrift. I fucked up, he started, voice gravel. Ethan and I. It was college, intense but toxic. He cheated. I spiraled, drank too much, ghosted everyone. When I saw him at the retreat, Stirred old shit. But Dan, you're not complicated. You're everything. His hand covered mine across the scarred oak, thumb tracing circles that sent shivers racing. I wanted to bolt, to armor up, but the rawness in his plea undid me. You should have trusted me, I said, voice breaking. From the start. He nodded, tears spilling. I know. Afraid you'd see the mess under the polish. We talked till last call, dissecting the fear, the patterns, my hiding from vulnerability, his from the past. Dawn crept in as we walked to my place, arms brushing, the city's hush a conspirator. Rebuilding was tentative, like stacking cards in a gale. We started small, coffee dates, no strings, just presence. He'd show up with bagels from Essa Bagel, locks glistening, and we'd sit on my fire escape, watching snow dust the skyline. Stories flowed freer now. His coming out at 20, the relief laced with his dad's quiet disapproval. My fumbling firsts in dorm rooms, hearts pounding under Ohio stars. Laughter returned, healing balm. His botched attempt at gingerbread men, icing swords and all, had us in stitches on the kitchen floor. Work through curveballs. The Reynolds campaign hit a snag, client balking at creatives, and Hargrove paired us for the salvage. Late nights in the office, pizza boxes stacking, tension alchemized into magic. What if we pivot to authenticity? Alexander suggested, sketching mood boards, his passion lighting the room. Our ideas collided, sparked, raw, urban vignettes of real New Yorkers chasing dreams. By pitch day, we owned the room, Hargrove beaming. That's the fire we need. High fives turned to hugs in the elevator after. His whisper hot. We make a hell of a team. Intimacy rekindled slow, sacred. One snowy evening, after a screening of Before Sunrise at an indie theater, walls dissolving in shared glances, he walked me home, flakes catching in his lashes. At my door, the kiss was inevitable, soft at first, then deepening, a reclamation. Inside, we shed coats and cares, bodies rediscovering rhythms. His lips on my shoulder, hands gentle explorers. I love you, he murmured into my skin, words of vow. Love you too, I echoed, the admission freeing, like exhaling after years underwater. But love's bloom invites thorns. Ethan's shadow persisted, a casual invite to a firm mixer, Alexander declining but the strain showing in his silences. I pushed for boundaries. Block him if you need, but pride bristled. I can handle it. Jamie circled too, emails laced with nostalgia. Remember our road trip to the Cape? I archived them unread, but the echo stirred old insecurities. Was I building on sand, forever bracing for the wave? Christmas Eve sealed a fragile peace. Alexander's mom hosted again. Her tree a riot of ornaments from his childhood, paper angels he'd glued in kindergarten. We exchanged gifts by firelight. For him, a leather-bound sketchbook, pages whispering draw us. For me, a vintage camera, lens capturing the beauty you miss. Her toast, to new beginnings, had us clinking glasses, eyes locked, the room warm with acceptance. Later, in his old boyhood room, posters faded. We made love by flashlight glow slow, profound, bodies hymns of forgiveness. New Year's dawned crisp, resolutions scribbled on napkins. More presents, less armor. We rang it in on a rooftop party in Williamsburg, fireworks blooming over the bridge like defiant stars. This year, he said, pulling me close amid the cheers. We face it together. Auld Lang Syne swelled, and for the first time, the future gleamed not a threat, but a canvas. January thawed the ice, but not the undercurrents. Promotions whispered, mine for the Reynolds win, his for cross-team leads, and ambition's siren sang anew. Late nights returned, but shared now, laptops side by side, take-out feasts between. Yet Ethan's ghost manifested. A package at the office, addressed to Alexander, old photos, a note, remember who you were with me. Wild. Free. I found it in the trash. Heart plummeting. Confrontation brewed over dinner at his place. Risotto forgotten. Why keep this shit? I demanded. Photos splayed like evidence. He deflated, rubbing temples. Didn't know what to do with it. Thought trashing it ended it. But the wound festered, trust. Once mended, fraying. You're still tied to him, I accused, voice rising. In ways I'm not. Tears streaked his face. No, God. No. It's you, Dan. Always you. We clung that night. Apologies whispered into sheets. But dawn brought resolve. Therapy together. Dr. Lena's couch a neutral ground. Communication's the bridge, she urged. And we built it plank by plank, fears voiced, boundaries etched. Spring teased with crocuses in planters. And so did hope. We weekend in the Hamptons. Borrowed cottage by the sea. Waves crashing like applause. Sand between toes. There, under star-pricked skies, Alexander proposed not rings, but futures. Move in? Make this official? Laughter bubbled. Yes on my lips. Joy effervescent. But as petals fell, so did illusions, Ethan's final strike looming. A storm to shatter our fragile bloom. April showers painted Manhattan in renewal. Cherry blossoms fleeting along the avenues like whispered secrets. Our lease signing felt like a sacrament, his Hell's Kitchen loft. My Chelsea echoes merging into shared space. My books on his shelves, his records spinning beside my coffee maker. Boxes unpacked amid laughter, pizza-fueled marathons, each item a brick in our foundation. Home, Alexander said, nailing a picture hook for our first joint photo, a candid from the High Line, windswept and grinning. I traced his jaw, heart full, this man, with his quiet storms and steadfast gaze, was mine. Work hummed in tandem. My promotion to senior exec came with a corner office, views of the Empire State, a desk that swallowed spreadsheets whole, but the title weighed heavier, expectations like anchors. Alexander's lead role meant travel. Chicago pitches, Boston brainstorms, nights where his side of the bed stayed cold. Miss you, texts bridged the miles, voice notes laced with longing. He'd return bearing airport souvenirs, deep dish swag, lobster rolls, and we'd collapse into reunions, bodies fierce with pent-up need, reaffirming in the dark what distance tried to steal. Ethan faded to a bruise, then a scar. Alexander blocked the number after a final, venomous email. You're playing house with a rebound. Come back to real fire. Read aloud over wine, then deleted like digital exorcism. Therapy solidified us. Sessions unpacking his abandonment fears, my perfectionist chains. You're worthy as you are, Dr. Lena affirmed, and slowly, I believed it, mirrored in his eyes during morning rituals, coffee steam curling between us. Summer simmered in. Fire escapes blooming with geraniums. street fairs pulsing with grilled corn and indie bands. We hosted a barbecue on the roof, Karen and Hargrove awkward but game, toasting our domestic bliss. Laughter echoed till midnight, but as guests trickled out, a shadow slipped in. A call from Alexander's mom, voice trembling. "Your father's. He's asking about you. The illness is progressing. Prostate cancer. Stage 4, news delivered over speaker in our kitchen. The city lights mocking our fragility." Alexander crumbled, the unbreakable cracking. He never said. About me. About us. His dad. The stoic mechanic from the South Side, who'd grunted approval at his Northwestern acceptance but frozen at the coming-out letter years prior. Silence had stretched since. A chasm. I held him as sobs racked, whispering, "We'll face it. Together." Flights booked to O'Hare. My hand in his through turbulence. Chicago's sprawl a reluctant homecoming. The bungalow in Bridgeport smelled of motor oil and memory. His mom's hug fierce as she let us in. His dad, Tom, lay propped in the den, gaunt but eyes sharp. Oxygen tube a traitor. "Alex," he rasped, hand extended, and the dam broke. Tears, apologies tumbling. "Proud of you, son. Always was. Just didn't know how to say." Stories unfolded over hospital jello. Tom's hidden scrapbook of Alexander's achievements, clippings yellowed with time. "Loved you through it all," he admitted, glancing at me with quiet nod. "Take care of my boy." We did. Shifts at the bedside. Alexander reading from that Whitman volume, voice steadying with each page. Tom passed in June, under a full moon that silvered the lake, his hand in Alexander's till the end. The funeral was a blur of black suits and casseroles, eulogies painting a man who toiled in silence but loved fiercely. Back in New York, grief coiled like smoke. Alexander withdrawing into runs at dawn, sketches dark and angular. "He knew," I reminded, pulling him from the easel. But healing was jagged, patience my vigil. Fall gilded the wound. Labor Day weekend, we escaped to the Finger Lakes. Vineyards rolling like emerald waves, air crisp with harvest. There, amid Cabernet tastings and bonfires, he proposed properly, on one knee by the dock. Ring simple platinum with a sapphire glint. For the depth in your eyes, tears blurred my yes, kiss sealing it under fireflies' glow. Forever, he vowed, and in that lakeside hush, I believed. But betrayal's echo, dormant, stirred. October brought a sterling merger, our firm absorbing Ethan's, boardrooms buzzing with integration talks. He appeared at the kickoff, polished suit masking the predator beneath, handshake with Alexander cool but eyes lingering. "Congrats on the engagement," he said, voice syrup, glancing at my ring. He always did settle quick. The barb landed subtle, but festered whispers in break rooms. Hale's old flames back. Drama incoming? Alexander brushed it off. Water under the bridge. But tension threaded our days. Late merges meant shared projects. Ethan maneuvered onto ours. Expertise a Trojan horse. Meetings turned minefields. His suggestions undermining Alexander's leads. Sidelong glances that twisted my gut. One night, post a brutal session where Ethan poached credit for a slide, Alexander snapped over takeout. "He's gunning for me, wants the lead." I urged confrontation, but pride held him. "I'll handle it. Don't want you caught in crossfire." November's chill mirrored the rift. Jamie resurfaced too. Congrats email on the engagement. Laced with, if it crashes, you know where to find me. I deleted, but doubt whispered. Patterns repeating. Love's lost to ambition's maw. Therapy unearthed it. Fear of history rhyming. And Alexander held space, but Ethan's proximity eroded trust. A overheard call in the stairwell. Stay away. I'm happy. Desperation in his tone. Not finality. Thanksgiving at his mom's, smaller now. Her eyes misty, held fragile joy. But Ethan's holiday card arrived days later, thinking of wilder times. Doors open, found in junk mail, but the poison seeped. Confrontation erupted post-dinner, dishes clattering. Why does he keep circling? What aren't you telling me? Alexander's face crumpled. Nothing. He's delusional. Thinks he can win me back. But the seed of suspicion bloomed dark. Late logins. Deleted texts. Was it paranoia? Or truth's ugly face? Climax crested in December. Holiday party at the plaza. Crystal chandeliers dripping light. Champagne flutes clinking like warnings. Ethan cornered Alexander by the bar. Words slurred. You're wasting away in suburbia with that stiff. Remember Ibiza? No strings. I intervened. Hand on Alexander's arm. Back off. But Ethan's laugh sliced. Ask your fiancé about the retreat hookup. He came crawling after one fight. Time fractured. Alexander paled. Denial dying on lips. The truth spilled in a cab ride home. One drunken night in the Catskills. Post-argument with me. Ethan's hotel room a mistake born of grief and gin. I hated myself, he choked. Told him it was over before us. Even. Betrayal's blade twisted deep. Not the act, but the lie's duration. The fracture of sacred vows. How could you? I whispered. Ring heavy as lead. He begged forgiveness. Tears rivers. But trust's corpse lay cold. I love you. Only you. Words ashes now. Dawn found me packing a bag. Chelsea's echo swallowing me whole. I need space, I said. Door clicking shut on our almost forever. Winter gripped the city in iron fists. January's gales howling through fire escapes like accusatory ghosts. My sublet in the village. A cramped walk-up with peeling wallpaper and a radiator that clanged like alarm bells. Felt like exile. Each creak a reminder of the loft's warmth I'd fled. Sterling and Voss granted a personal leave. Hargrove's gruff, take the time. Sun masking the office grapevine's churn. I avoided the merger's fallout. Emails auto-replied. But Alexander's texts pierced the armor. Please. Coffee? One talk. Deleted unread. Though my thumb hovered. Heart a traitor. Grief's anatomy unfolded raw. Anger first. Fists clenched against subway poles. Replaying the Catskills night. His whispers to Ethan. The betrayal's math subtracting trust. Then numbness. Days blurring in freelance gigs from a corner cafe. Screen glow the only companion. Dr. Lena's sessions dug deeper. This isn't just him. It's your blueprint, Daniel. Abandonment scripted from childhood moves. Lost loves. I nodded, journaling feverishly. Pages of rage. Then please, why wasn't I enough to choose clean? Alexander respected the space. But traces lingered. A care package at my door. Oatmeal raisin cookies from his mom. Note in her script. Hearts heal crooked, but they heal. Yours, Ellen. A sketch slipped in. And signed, Me by the Hudson. Light catching my profile. Titled Anchor. Tears blurred it. The pull visceral. Friends rallied. Cocktails with Sarah from Design. Her blunt, dump the cheater, oceans of fish. But none filled the void, his absence a phantom limb. February thawed edges. A call from Jamie, heard the split. My place if you need. Tempted, familiarity's siren. But I demurred, healing solo. Instead, I volunteered at a queer youth center in Harlem, facilitating art workshops for kids navigating their truths. Their courage, sketches bold with color, stories stammered but fierce, mirrored my fracture. One boy, Jamal, 14 and wide-eyed, shared his, "Dad said it's a phase. Feels like I'm invisible." I hugged him, whispering, "You're seen." And that's power. In their resilience, I glimpsed my own worth beyond wreckage. Alexander surfaced indirectly, mutual friends updates. His promotion secured despite Ethan's sabotage, quiet competence winning out. Ethan, rumor had it, transferred to LA. Tail between legs after HR whispers of toxicity. Vindication soured, though, no joy in his fall, just exhaustion. One drizzly afternoon, crossing Washington Square, I spotted him jogging path, earbuds in, pace relentless. Our eyes met. He slowed, ripping them out. "Dan," voice cracked. Rain streaking his face? Or were they tears? We ducked under an arch. Words tumbling. "I'm sorry, God." 1,000 times. His hands shook. Green eyes hollowed. "Therapy's kicking my ass. Unpacking the why. The fear of losing you made me cling to old poisons." He spoke of patterns. Ethan's chaos a drug, masking his dad's silence. "But you made me want better." "Still do." I listened, walls cracking. "It gutted me, Alex." "The lie more than the act." He nodded, broken. "Deserve that. And more." "No, please. Just truth raw, offered like olive branch." We parted with a hug, chaste but charged, his cologne stirring ghosts. That night, alone with chamomile, I waited, forgiveness a mountain, but solitude's valley echoed empty. March bloom tentative, calls exchanged, lunches platonic at first, then laced with undercurrents. "Miss your laugh," he'd say over falafel, foot nudging mine accidental on purpose. I resisted, but the magnet drew shared history, the good outweighing scars. Climax revisited in April. Merger's dust settled. A client gala at Cipriani, crystal echoing with toasts. I attended solo, black tie armor, mingling with brass. Alexander arrived fashionably late, tux sharp, I scanning till they locked on me. Heart stuttered, he approached, flute extended. "Dance." The band swung into Sinatra. "The way you look tonight," and against better judgment, I yielded, his hand at my waist, steps sinking like memory. Whispers amid swirl. "I've changed, working it daily." His breath warm, sincerity a balm. But doubt's thorn pricked, a colleague's aside. "Hale's been seeing someone?" "Nah, just therapy marathons." Relief, then guilt, judging the man rebuilding. Post-gala, cab to neutral ground. A 24-hour diner on 3rd. Eggs over easy and confessions. "I want us back," he said. Fork paused. "Not perfect, real. With all the mess." Tears pricked. Mine too. "Scared," I admitted. "Of breaking again." He reached, palm up. "Then we build unbreakable." Together, the kiss in that vinyl booth, soft, seeking sealed tentative truce. We didn't rush. Weeks of dates redolent with new old magic. Picnics in Bryant Park. Sketches of us intertwined. Therapy joint again. Dr. Lena beaming. Growths in the grit. May's warmth coaxed vulnerability. Him sharing relapse fears. Me voicing insecurities. Intimacy returned reverent. Nights in my sublet. Then his loft. Bodies hymns of redemption. Touches apologies and affirmations. Yet conflict crested anew. Summer's heat wave mirroring inner boil. A work crisis, major client defection, threw us into overdrive. Deadlines devouring evenings. Stress-frayed nerves. An argument erupted over a misplaced file. Words weapons? You're retreating again, I accused. Like with him, he recoiled. Stung. This is us fighting fair, not hiding. Space again. A night apart. But dawn brought texts. Sorry. Love you. Flaws and all. Reconciliation over rooftop sunsets. Apologies melting into plans. A getaway to mend. June's solstice found us in Provincetown. Cape's queer haven. Rainbow flags snapping in salt breeze. Whale watches. Dune hikes. Dinners at bayside shacks. There, amid drag shows and leather fairs, window shopped. Hearts open. We recommitted. Vows whispered on the pier. Through storms. I choose you. Love deepened. Humanistic bloom. Not fairy tale, but earned. Textured with scars. But betrayal's final echo. A letter from Ethan. Forwarded by HR. Apology penned in regret. I poisoned what was good. Forgive myself first. Alexander read it aloud. Then burned it in a beach fire. Ashes to sea. Closed, he said. Arm around me. July's fireworks burst overhead. Symbols of ignition renewed. August lazed in golden haze. Humidity clinging like lover's sweat. But our rhythm steadied. Work balanced with whimsy. Ambition tempered by anchor. Sterling and Voss thrived post-merger. My office now shared brainstorming hub. Alexander's sketches adorning walls. Abstract hearts cracked but mended with gold. Kintsugi in ink. Hargrove promoted us tandem, VP tracks whispered, but success felt shared. Not solitary siege. Evenings unwound slow. Farmers' market halls turned into feasts. Wine from Finger Lakes bottles. Laughter echoing off beams. Healing's arc bent humanistic, not erasure, but integration. Alexander's grief for Tom wove into art shows. A solo exhibit in Chelsea galleries. Pieces raw with loss and love. For Dad, and the man who stayed. Opening night. Crowds murmured approval. His mom's tears. My hand in his. Pride swelling. Critics noted the emotional depth. A queer lens on American resilience. But for us, it was catharsis, vulnerability monetized in vulnerability. Challenges persisted. Life's quiet insurrections. My novel, dusted off. Demanded nights at the desk. Alexander's travel spiked with West Coast pitches. Distance tested. But rituals held. Daily voice memos. Love you to the skyline and back. A scare in September, my checkup flagging high cortisol. Stress's ghost. Prompted pact. Boundaries sacred. Wellness non-negotiable. Yoga in the park. Runs along the West Side Highway. Hands linked in sweat-slick solidarity. October's foliage turned fiery. Mirroring passions rekindle. We hosted Ellen for Columbus Day, now Indigenous Peoples Weekend. Her stories of Chicago's changing tides blending with ours. You've built a family, she said, toasting over pumpkin pie, her acceptance a cornerstone. Holidays approached healed. Thanksgiving quartet with friends. Tree trimming to Ella Fitzgerald. Gifts thoughtful. His accustomed journal for my words. Mine a trip to Chicago. Roots revisited. Winter's cusp brought reflection. New Year's Eve. Same Williamsburg roof. Confetti swirling. We clinked flutes. To us, flawed. Fierce. Forever. Fireworks crescendoed. Kiss amid cheers. The city our witness. 2026 dawned with promise. Wedding plans sketched casual. Small ceremony in Central Park. Vows under the arches. Suits simple. Rings exchanged with tears. Yet the story's humanism lay not in perfection, but persistence. Conflicts arose, arguments over chores, career forks but resolved in dialogue. Therapy's tools sharpened. Betrayal's scar faded to lesson. Trust earned daily. Forgiveness a choice renewed. Alexander's presence, once crisis-born, became constant, waking to his coffee breath, falling asleep to his heartbeat. Life's banal beauties elevated. One spring morning, a year post-collapse, I woke to birdsong filtering through blinds, his arm heavy across my waist. "Happy anniversary," he murmured, lips brushing shoulder. Anniversary of what? The fall? The stay? The change? We rose, brewed French press, sat at the window overlooking bustle. "You saved me," I said, hand in his. He shook head, smile soft. We saved each other. From ourselves. The novel published that fall, mid-list miracle. Tales of fractured men mending in concrete canyons. Dedication. To A. Who stayed. And changed everything. Launch party buzzed. His pride brighter than spotlights. Reviews praised the tender humanism. A gay American odyssey of heart and hustle. But success paled to quiet nights. Him sketching. Me writing. Love's quiet industry. Years folded. Promotions to C-suite. A dog adopted scruffy mutt named Whitman. Adventures from road trips to Rocky's wilds. Ellen's grandkids, from his sister, visited. Chaos of crayons and cookies. Our uncle's roll joyful rehearsal. Conflicts came. Relocations mulled. Health hiccups but weathered. Roots deeper. In the end, not tragic curtain, but open vista. The collapse proved catalyst, not curse. Alexander's presence, that first anchor, wove into life's tapestry. Dramatic falls, emotional rises, romantic depths, humanistic grace. We stood on our fire escape one dusk. City sprawling gold, his head on my shoulder. "Worth it?" he asked, voice low. I turned, kissed him slow. Every shattered piece, and in that kiss, under Manhattan's endless sky, we were whole not despite the breaks, but because of them. Changed, yes, but gloriously, irrevocably alive.